Seattle real estate's feeling the heat. We got many Seattle home sales falling, and people are like, why is it falling? Well, guess what? You got a bunch of rich people moving out. Jeff Bezos is moving out for Miami. Not surprising. Miami is getting all the clientele at this point. And if you look at this, the amount of single family pending home sales in King County last month was down 15% from a year ago. If you also look at the office demand, it's the lowest in the whole country. I mean, can you imagine your office department is getting beat by something one like San Francisco, which is probably one of the worst office markets I've ever seen? They're literally auctioning off office towers for 50% off. I think San Francisco is the worst, but apparently Seattle is even weaker for some reason. So we got a massive chill in the market. Home sellers and home buyers made 44% fewer deals in October than the same month in 2019 before the pandemic. Now, that's pretty bad, right? Many of these big buyers are no longer buying in, and many of the people who want to invest in Seattle real estate don't want to touch this market at all. It's a very cold market. People don't like it, and it's very, very scary. And plus, at this point, with interest rates being this high, yes, you're seeing a small rebound of the amount of mortgages, but still, though, it's still very, very low compared to 2019. And added high rates, high HOA, and high home insurance, Seattle real estate is just a big turnoff. And many of the people who used to live in Seattle don't have to live here anymore. Why would you live in something this expensive? Why would you ever spend $1.2 million for a box like this when you get a nice mansion in Texas or a very big house in Las Vegas or like a humongous penthouse in Miami? I mean, many people are just moving to other cities. Remote work is on the rise, and this is why office real estate, especially in the US, is doing really badly. And with many of the rich office workers leaving, you have still a lot of people remaining in Seattle, but like I said before, 44% fewer deals compared to 3 to 4 years ago, which is pretty bad in my opinion. And we also got some big things like the investment and the way they treat business owners in Seattle is just not the move, right? Here's the thing, I'm all for the tenants because tenants, they pay rent. You know, there's obviously needs to be some protection for tenants, right? But come on, man, like a Seattle homeowner is forced to live in his van after his tenant refuses to leave and squats and also lists his home for rent on Airbnb. That is just taking things too far. Now, here's the thing about a lot of these West Coast cities like Oakland and stuff like that. People could literally squat in their home for like 2 years and you can't do anything about it. And they could leave behind damages, which they don't even have to pay. And what about that huge rent list? Well, they're not going to pay it. Okay, it's just going to be thrown in the trash. So it eventually just ends up being the landlord, who many times are just small landlords, like 1 or 2 houses, are down in the dumps. And like this story here, imagine you have a house, you're paying a huge crazy mortgage because interest rates are almost at 8% for the 30 year. And HOA in Seattle is crazy high, not to mention the home insurance and also the property taxes is crazy. You're paying all these things, including like garbage, water, electric, and then you're like, tenant just doesn't pay anything, which is fine, but they better get out the next month. But instead it sits there until like March 2024 apparently is the court hearing. And while they're at it, they rent your home out on Airbnb and they're making side cash. This is crazy. I mean, the person's already $30,000 behind rent, illegally listing a house as a short-term Airbnb for what? $434 a night? That's crazy, right? And this type of behavior is encouraging many other people to rent these crazy homes in Seattle and the rest of the Bay Area and LA, these places. And they're just pretty much promoting this behavior. People go into these houses, they squat, and the court hearing is not going to come for the next few months, and they list the unit for Airbnb. In fact, these stores are becoming more and more common, which is a big turnoff for a place like Seattle. People who have $500,000 to $1 million, even $2 million to buy a rental property now are no longer looking out Seattle real estate. This is why the demand for investment real estate in Seattle is at an all-time low. You got crazy laws like this, which pretty much makes it pretty legal and pretty well known. And in fact, people are actually doing this, which is making every single landlord very scared about who they rent their units to. And it's pretty much denying people from even investing in real estate. And plus, why would you ever do this? Why would you ever buy like a $1 or $2 million home in Seattle? You could just put it in like a CD. Charles Shaw is offering 5.65%. Who wouldn't take that? It's insane. And then you also have like the rising rates, which is pretty much making many of the big tech boys just get off the Seattle real estate market. Tech layoffs is the second biggest leading cause to luxury housing drop. If you guys don't know, Adobe is cutting back, Salesforce is cutting back. Apparently now unemployment is ticking up. Consumerism is down, right? If you look at the latest Michigan report on consumer, nobody's spending money nowadays, right? This could be a very dull Black Friday and very dull Christmas. And the amount of people being laid off is crazy high. And it's not like low paying jobs. We're talking about very high paying jobs, 6-figure jobs. People in that category are being laid off, which is causing a massive sharp decline in the demand for luxury Seattle real estate. Not that big of a surprise. And like I said, Seattle office demand is the lowest among all of the US cities. Imagine it's worse than San Francisco, it's worse than Oakland, it's worse than Chicago, right? The demand is super duper low, and it's actually pretty frightening to see this stuff. So if you look at the latest reports released this week, Seattle experienced the greatest quarterly decline in demand for office space in the country, with a 43% drop quarter over quarter and a 52% whopping drop year over year. And if you look at just residential home sales, like I said in the beginning of the video, they're down 44% compared to 2019 pre-pandemic. But then again, you got this, right? I'm pretty sure last year's office demand for Seattle isn't even that high either. But this year is like a 52% drop from last year, which wasn't even that great, is a pretty terrible situation to see. I mean, nationally, a lot of these places are going down, but you have some special places like New York City recently is doing okay. They're kind of stabilizing, not that big a surprise. San Francisco surprisingly is handling okay, and same thing with Boston. But for Chicago, Seattle, they're just continues going down every single day. And Seattle is the worst. It just keeps dropping. And it's getting so bad that the city is even saying, hey man, maybe it's time for us to convert some of these units into residential units. And look at some of these properties, right? Every few properties, you always see the craziest price cuts. 15 grand right here. And I guarantee you this isn't the first price cut that this unit has done. And if you look around, for almost $40,000 price cut right there. These are very, very nice units. $80,000 whopping dollar price cut. Where do you see that anywhere else in the country? No. And look at this, $11,000 of price cuts right here. And this isn't even a bad building. Like, this seems to be like a pretty high-end building with pretty fantastic views. One bed, not one bath. You get 2 baths and almost 1,000 square foot. Something like this for $639K in Seattle back in 2019 was unheard of. And this is already its 10th price cut with 11,000 down recently. Look at this. There's like more units on the price cut list and the discount list than just regular homes being listed for sale. And look at this. You can even get like a 2-bed, 2-bath in downtown for under $600K. The 10th price cut, 25 G's with the most recent price cut. And these units are continuously getting cheaper and cheaper by the day. And plus, these are some good neighborhoods. This is not like the bad part of Seattle. This is like a pretty decent part of Seattle. North Seattle, you got some of them pretty close to the college, University of Washington, Seattle. And look at all these really nice homes being sold for super cheap. You got whole entire townhouses and units and new condos like these selling for pretty affordable prices compared to what it was listed a couple years before. And prices like these will continuously go down. Look at this penthouse being knocked off a full $1 million. You would not see these discounts in very popular cities like Singapore, Sydney, or Miami. Only in Seattle. It's getting pretty bad. But let's see what happens. I think this whole entire real estate fiasco, it's not over just yet.